My name is Ryan Smith. I'm with SGI, Vice President of Saskatchewan Cleansing and Salvage Operations. And become a bit of a tradition here that we are the opening act for many great speakers after us. But first, I'd like to actually just take a moment, if I could, and for Tom and Barb and all the organizers and all of the vendors here today, I think we owe a great round of applause for how just excellent an event this is. This is my fourth or my fifth, and it is always first class, and we really appreciate how well folks make this. Thank you very much. You maybe noticed that we've got an army of SGI folks that have been here over the weekend. There's a bit of a departure, certainly from last year, which is nice. But we have folks from our technical industry relations area. We've had Ciaran, our adjuster industry relations folks. We've had various appraisers, image reviewers. We've had our image audit and accreditation management here. Our national partnerships, Sean and Troy, and we've got Jessica Hill-Flaman, who's going to speak with us shortly, and Jennifer Bell from our claims operations side as well. And we made a structural change in 2020. Previously, we had sort of a separate workflow for our adjusters and our appraisers, and it really gave us a chance to sort of better align our functions, and Jessica's going to speak to that a little bit later. But with the new accreditation requirements that we now have in place, this allows us to shift a little bit of our focus to looking at some of those processes and some of those pain points, and especially our relationships. And having all these folks here today really has been helpful in continuing our networking, building those relationships, those points of contacts. We really do recognize the importance of that communication when it comes to our mutual customer experience and also to our partner experience, which we don't talk about an awful lot, both for our shops in the room and our other partners. That is becoming more and more of a focus for us, and that's really part of why we've had so many folks here today. So again, thanks for being so welcome. I'm just going to kick things off, and I'll run through a bit of the agenda here before I turn it over to Ciaran and Jess. And we'll hopefully have some time for some good discussion at the end. As you saw in the slide at the start, this is really the foundation for what we want to use for some town halls that we're going to do in the fall around the province as well. But we'd like to run through some updates on the Safe Quality Auto Repair Project, talk about some Saskatchewan industry trends that we typically would. We'll go through some updates that we've got at our image desk in particular, talk a little bit about the technical committee, the work they've done, and the work they've got planned for this year. And then we'll run through some industry support initiatives when I talk about our partner experience, and Jess is going to come speak to those things. And then we'll close with some updates and hopefully have some next steps and some question and answer time. So where I'd really like to start, though, is with the Safe Quality Auto Repair Project. This was a historic project for us. It was the most significant project we have had in many, many years. And it really is a true testament to how Saskatchewan can be a leader. And all of our partners in the room deserve acknowledgement for this, for their contributions, for their effort, for their investment, and in many cases for the sacrifices they made. And it was all in the name of assuring our mutual customers are getting safe quality repairs. So there's just so much credit to go to you folks in the room. In 2018, Repair Driven News reported that Canada had approximately half the body shops they had just 8 years earlier in 2010. So 50% consolidation. I wasn't able to find an updated stat, but I think we can assume that number has grown. And in Saskatchewan, being as geographically dispersed as we are, it is so critical that we have that strong network to service our customers around the province. And so I'm pleased to say that we now have, with the new requirements, achieved less than half of the consolidation that occurred in the rest of Canada. Repairs representing 95% of our repair volume remained or met the new accreditation requirements, which, while we never want to lose a partner, retaining 95% of that volume with these partners really is outstanding, and that's a credit to you all in the room. And there was a lot of credit to go around, frankly, and I've got to start with the SAR leadership. The leadership of SAR and SADA and how we were able to work together, and the passion really was what enabled us to move this forward. I know the conversation started well before my time, Tom, but I recall meeting in 2018 at that lunch where we were talking this. We started to talk practically about what is this going to look like. And there was no debate about whether we had to do it. It was all about how we were going to do it. So the leadership that was shown by the associations and working with SGI is something I think we need to be really proud of. Polytechnic is in the room as well. I think I saw Scott, and I'm not sure if Paul's here, but the work that Polytechnic did, and this really was led by SAR in packaging that ICAR training in a way that made the delivery easier, that made it eligible for the Canada Saskatchewan Job Grant, where 67% was reimbursed. It really was important for the initiative. SGI was able to help subsidize the delivery of some of those courses remotely as well, with some help from one of our partners, Autotext, and in taking the welding courses to the communities and ease some of that travel burden of the shops. So we certainly are proud of that. Also financially, the incentives that SGI will have paid to the industry in support of this transition will likely exceed about $2 million. And we're not aware of any other insurer in North America who has provided that kind of support. And we're pleased that so many partners were able to take advantage of that.
The technical committee, and I know things never move fast enough. I don't want that
frustration at times to overshadow the really good work that our technical committee has done with representatives from both SAR and SADA. Ciaran's going to speak to some of the details shortly. They have done some very good work, and they have a pretty aggressive agenda for next year as well. So while I appreciate it's very hard for all of us to keep up with that pace of change, they are doing some very good work, and it's definitely helping us work together. But really, above all, it's the partners in the room. I can't say that enough. We knew going into this back in those town halls in 2019, this wasn't about a point in time catch up. This wasn't about ever getting to a point where we could sit back and say, we're there. This is going to keep challenging us. We're going to need to keep working together. But having implemented the new requirements is going to allow us to shift a bit more focus, like I said, to those processes, to some of those pain points that we know industry is having, and working together to move those forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Ciaran now. We'll go through the agenda. Like I said, Jess is going to pop up as well, and then we'll certainly have some time at the end for questions and answers.
Good morning again, everyone. That was a nice dramatic entrance. A little pause. So thank you, Ryan. Thank you for that summary. He highlighted the themes that we're going to be touching on today during our presentation. For us, SCORP was one of the largest projects we've undertaken within SGI in certainly within the appraisal area and in a direct relation to our partnership and how it affected it. One of the most important things that we wanted to come out of this was SCORP is a commitment to our partners within SGI. I think one of the things I'm hoping everyone got a copy of this poster. We have a lot of them. If anyone ever needs one, we've got them in stock. What's most important about it though is it's really about informing customer decision. We recognize that there is changes in vehicle technology, safety technologies, construction. How can we communicate that to a customer group that doesn't necessarily understand those intricacies and the importance of selecting the right body shop? We really took it from the perspective that we as SGI, the way that we can manage that risk best is to provide our customers with the information that they need when selecting the body shop and help get the work to those shops that we know have the training to the equipment. The best piece about this, and what we're telling our customers at time of intake, when they're looking for a body shop, we're strongly recommending that they go to one of our accredited team members within the collision industry. And we talk about what are the rationale behind it, certified technicians, guaranteed estimates with respect to warranty work. And one of the biggest, most important things is the fact that these folks, you folks, understand how to repair vehicles properly in accordance with the way the manufacturer recommends. So the final piece, and this is the part we love, is that SGI will stand behind these repairs because we know we have the relationship with you to do that. If something goes south with a customer, we know we can reach out and work together to repair that issue and make it better. At the end, I love this part. They'll take care of you so you can take care of that's their sort of the accredited logo that we've kind of put on. So again, thank you very much. SCORP is so important to us and to you, and I'm hoping that with this renewed partnership moving forward, we'll hopefully be able to see and ensure that our mutual customers' vehicles are repaired safely and properly. With SCORE, we're just wrapping up the last pieces of it. So a couple of elements that need to get finalized. I know there's been a lot of questions. One of them is about the branding. There is, SGI is looking at its brand corporately. We're projecting going to be some changes. That timeline is fluid. There's a lot of folks that, with a lot of input and interest in it. So right now we can't commit to the exact time. But again, as we said, we have provided a link to a approved brand that can be used for anything like electronic media, online, anything printed. Please today do not go and invest in a large 7-year vinyl. I would go with maybe the 7-month, but signage and awnings and things like that with the old logo on it, there is a potential it will change. And when it does change, we want to work with you folks to make sure we can do that transition as smooth as possible. So stay tuned, we're on it. As soon as we know the changes, we will communicate. The other thing, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in the presentation as we move forward, but the High Performance Partner Program, we want to continue to grow that piece and understand it better. So that is an ongoing element that we'll be touching on. The other one, of course, we keep talking about is setting our KPI benchmarks. So as you know right now, as of July 1st, we kept on the day that we actually launched SCORE, we took everybody's scorecards and essentially everyone started with a clean slate. We reached out to some shops, especially some of our high volume ones, to help us refine the program over the last few months. We have been getting a lot of input on some of their perceptions of the scores and how they relate to their own performance and ways that we can potentially change it. We are looking to have those benchmarks set, but basically early 2022. And that's something that Lyle and his team and partnerships, we will be working, consulting on those benchmarks, potentially in part through the technical committee as well. So just something to keep in mind. We're not quite finished, but we're getting there. I know this is a typical slide, and I know it's busy. I again just want to give a little bit of a snapshot. I like doing this with you folks, give you a little bit of insights into kind of where we're going as an industry, what's going on with the costs globally within our own team and our own industry, provincial industry. One thing to keep in mind: 2021, that's year to date, right? So it's actually till June, so it's half the year. As you all know, collision is seasonal. You need the whole year to get the real big picture, right? You can't just look at the first 2 quarters. What we're trending right now is about $4,600 in average estimate severity, and we're seeing that trend where parts costs are outpacing labor. It's continuing. What's interesting about this, and it's something I just want to bring up because it's big on everyone's mind, hail. At least it's big on ours, because it certainly came through my neighborhood with a vengeance about 3 weeks ago. And we have been in a lot of discussion with PDR around it. When we report these costs to you, we always exclude comprehensive damage. So death, fire, those types of things. And the rationale behind it is we want to concentrate obviously on the collision elements. And especially when we look outside of that, there's more cost, more opportunity to control costs on repair versus replace. One of the opportunities that we want to continue to do is we want to start introducing some more information where we're getting the total view of what's going on. If we were to add in hail, just as an example, into 2020, the actual average severities are around $48.50 instead of $4. So it's about $300 a claim more. One of the other things that happens is the labor overlaps the parts. So we see our labor costs start to outpace the parts costs, and we're starting to see a significant increase in severity. One of the best things about hail is you have no idea what it's going to do. So it is one of those elements that really, another reason we take it out of the data, because it all depends on the storm activity. So we can have a heavy hail year and potentially the hail's really light, and it can actually drive our severity down. We can have another hail year where it's very severe and we're replacing panels all day long. It'll boost our severity up. So it's a dynamic element, but it's just something to keep in mind. And we're happy to kind of discuss that with you and continue to provide that information and grow it. But the one piece, again, similar to as last year, and I just wanted to continue to bring this up, and I know I keep harping on it, but it is one of the reasons it's one of our key performance indicators. Parts, again, on the collision side, it's continuing to outpace. We're seeing that trend continue. When we talk specifically about things like the severity, we understand that technology is changing. We're seeing our sublet grow, which is good. And I'll be honest, it's good to see the sublet grow because we know that those important calibrations and scans that need to get done are getting done. But obviously, we would certainly love to see as much as possible that work being done in-house for various reasons, including things like cycle time considerations. So that's going to be one of the focuses as we move forward, is how can we continue to maintain. If we want to see the sublet opportunities grow, but we want to see the in-house work kind of outpace that. Here's another slide we haven't talked about in a while. And the reason we want to bring it up is total loss of length is very sensitive. This provides you an insight into repairability. What kind of vehicles are we seeing? One of the questions that keeps coming up, well, we're seeing repair costs grow. But one of the other things that kind of maintains the stability of this curve when we kind of look at it is, and how it kind of bounces around that 20% mark is, or the 22% mark, is that we're also seeing things like the cost of new vehicles grow. Things like used vehicles holding their price. So it does help to keep that, even though repair costs are creeping up. As long as that keeps pace with the MSRP on those vehicles, you won't see too much of a change in the mix. One of the other things, we recognize that's what's important, that's what's going to happen. One of the things that was interesting though is that we did have a large portion of claims get dispatched in the first part of 2020 to shops. First of all, thank you for helping us with that. We know that customers at the time was very sensitive with around COVID restrictions, and we were initially trying to understand what the customer experience would be and what those expectations should be. Large proportion of them went to the shops, and one of the things that was interesting, we did actually see a bump in the number of total losses being processed. So again, we want to explore that correlation more. Obviously, the number of claims, which is the orange line, has taken a dive from down. What was also interesting is the TL mix went up. And sometimes, and honestly, in a lot of discussions, we hear shops say, we want an opportunity to see some of those claims. And I do know that the number of potential TLs that went through the shops would have gone up. And interestingly, so did our TL mix. And I'll be honest, I was kind of assuming that it would go down. Potentially more of those repair opportunities at the shop level. But again, that's something that we can connect on, certainly at the community level, and explore that more with our group to understand, get into the data, because there could be other circumstances. But so far, we're on pace on average so far in 2021. So, and again, keep your eyes peeled, because things are changing very, very quickly. One of the things, just want to bring it up quickly, is hail. Just in the September, August 31st, September 1st storm. So it's Assiniboia, Regina, Yorkton, in those areas. Right now, as of yesterday morning, where your storm dashboard, we are trending about 7,500 claims in that group, and that's continuing to trickle in. So, and that's only been a week ago. So there will be some. We're going to continue to see how that storm is going to evolve. We got some great feedback from our PDR partners that it's soft, but there's lots of it. And so you're starting to see roofs and things like that with a couple hundred dents. It really does kind of help us understand that repair versus replace decision a little bit better. So just keep in mind something that's going on. Just transitioning a little bit away from SCORP, just kind of want to talk about our image for a little while. And of course, this is one of our performance indicators. This is not a key performance indicator in the sense that shops are measured on it. They're not. We track it. We would like to utilize image to maybe inform things like access to high partner performance program and those types of elements. But one of the things that would be very, very important to us with this is turnaround time. We understand the sensitivity of that, and obviously the wait for shops and what it takes when shops are trying to process claims, waiting for that call back or that email back in Digital Connect. In 2020, as we see, obviously there was an effect on our cycle turnaround time because our claims volume went down. But we have been on average, at least over since the last 6 months, we've been tracking about 3.5 business hours on turnaround on image. And into the beginning of even 2020, prior to the COVID, the real effects of COVID was being felt, we were training around 1 business day. We are continuing to look for opportunities to connect. I think a couple of the things that are also going to be impacting this is we are looking at some policy changes. So I would like to, in our future slide here, I'll be talking about that as well. One of the key elements, of course, is our process time, ensuring that we're maintaining our oversight as necessary, but improving and making it more efficient, the process. This is a little bit of a summary of our high performance partner program we call Gas for Success. One of the reasons I really like this slide, one of the reasons I like it is that when you guys look at your provincial scorecards, when you take a look at at that. Collectively through, and I'm going to say it's a combination of working with shops to better understand our process and policy manuals, but also looking for opportunities to assist and provide shops an opportunity to better understand what's important to image. And we have been continuing to work on that and continue to. We've actually seen what we call as the financial risk element in our HPP program. It's been cut in half. So it's gone from about $140 a claim down to 75, which is fantastic. And it's one of those things we want to continue to work with you folks on. Again, what we want to do is when we're looking at the performance part of the program, what are some of those triggers? What are the things that are going to be indicative of a high performing shop? And that's certainly one of the questions that we're exploring through with partnerships through our surveys. The other element I think that's important in here is just continuing to look at the percentage. And we're still in around that 50%. So as I mentioned before, we build our image review basically to look at 40% of claims. So 40% of claims represents between 60 and 70% of severity. That's what most are image. Our auto accept level right now is about 4,500 bucks. Anything under 4,500, we don't even look at image review. That represents almost 60% of the claim volume. Of the remaining 40%, 20% of it's getting annotated at image desk. So 20% of the claim, 1 in 5, ends up essentially with a change or a change request through our image review. So just something to keep in mind. We want to continue to work on it. But a little bit of a highlight, and any types of questions, we'll work through our technical committee and through basically Gerald and Tom, who are shop relations team. We'll also be there to help review some of those scorecards. One of the pieces of feedback we got is people want to have better understanding, help understanding the scorecards. And there's one of the things I think we're going to refocus on, see what we can do to help in partnership with claims tech and our shop relations team to basically get out of those shops and sit down and work through those scorecards together and help better understand the data and what it's telling us. One of the final elements in here, and again, I recognize, so we talked about there's about 50,000 claims that go through image in the last few months. Since August, I apologize. And one of the things I want to bring up again, and this is something that we want to continue to improve with, but basically a quarter of the claims is a result of misreports, a quarter of the results. Now there are others, three quarters of volume associated with other items, which we're going to continue to want to work on. One of the things I want to bring up is that we can essentially cut that volume down by a quarter, almost 25%, if we could get in and resolve an issue with photos. Now, a couple of things, we have received feedback. We understand that there are opportunities, even on our side, to revisit policy and look at when are we asking for photos, what kind of photos are we asking for, and that is something we've heard. So I'm looking forward to seeing that number change collaboratively. In addition to helping, maybe if we can clarify what we need to see and communicate that effectively to shops. I'm sure you guys don't want your claim reviewed through or held up in review. And if we can be clear on our expectations, maybe we can do a better job there and collectively reduce the number of supplement requests associated with photos. So on the technical committee side, and I think Ryan had touched on this. On the technical committee side, Ryan had touched on this. We have changed. Within the last 2 years, we've tried to provide some governance at the technical committee end. Looking back to the minutes, looking back at how it's processed, we believe that there's ways to make it more efficient. We have always told SAR and any shop that comes in, the path to resolving a technical issue or looking at how do we manage new and emerging technologies, the path is through the technical committee. That's where it gets fixed. It doesn't get fixed at image desk. It doesn't get fixed at audit. It gets fixed in collaboration with a joint technical committee set, where everyone who's affected is at the table. That's one of those things that we want to and continue to work towards improving the turnaround time on that. Again, we've heard that there are concerns with the efficiency and effectiveness of the committee, and we're committed to improving that. And I think we've taken some very, very good steps towards that recently. It was a significant prioritization exercise that happened in the first half of the year. And out of that, we had a lot of chance to move on some new items, which I'll get into. But one of the things I want to do first is that in the last, since 2020, and we're looking at some of the opportunities. There's almost been identified almost $2.8 million in new operations just through the work of the Taylor Committee. Everything from masking to protect, interior from overspray. Hope everybody understands that process. We did follow and align with what was required by Mitchell to ensure that we were including non-included operations. There was a significant amount of time for masking that wasn't being billed. So it's one of the things we're going to continue to work with, but we have provided information. I know Ryan Kessler did a great job providing some new documentation to help people understand how to apply it properly. Rural sublet travel policy. One of the new ones within the industry, certainly. There are other policies, but they're not like ours. So we're quite proud of that. And again, understanding and recognizing the challenges that our rural repair space and trying to get the customer vehicles processed. We did touch on our grid system opportunity around reverse crown. We expanded the pre-diagnostic scan allowances, the frame setup time allowance. There was also an allowance associated with that feather prime block. And of course, some of the new ones that came up were post-collision SRS functionality, and something which today is still not normalized is paying and looking at compensation around destructive well testing and having that formal process around it. And one of the great things that came up with this and help us develop portions of that policy, again, was technicians out of industry that are also like our welding instructors. So a little bit shout out to Shane and those guys for helping us with that as well. So again, a lot of work being done, but we have a long ways to go through the prioritization piece. Some of the things that are in progress today, and we're actually meeting on this later this week. The three items that floated to the top in the prioritization exercise were structural adhesives, noise, vibration, hardness forms. Where do those charge? Right now, they're buried in our BSM rate. Is there an opportunity to look at those outside of the BSM rate? That's really the key to that element, the key to that exercise. Clean and retape emblems and nameplates. There is an issue with that. We have identified it. In fact, working with Mitchell and our technical committee, identified that there is a gap in our compensation there, which we'll be addressing very shortly. And the other one that came up was well burned through with battery maintenance. And I think we've got some opportunity to look at that from a different perspective. And that's something that we're hoping to be able to work with our technical committee on over the next few months. And I think we've got some good opportunity there as well. Some of the next plan pieces, and these are ones, again, through the prioritization exercise, looking at vehicle test drives, structural measuring. The big one for us, the big one is ADAS calibration. What are our opportunities to bring these in-house? And one of the things we're being asked to do is SGI, give us a clear policy. How can I build a budget and projections for ADAS calibration if I don't know how much it's going to get? And what are the opportunities around that? What are the volumes in my location? All these types of questions. These are things that we want to work with and resolve over the next period into 2020. And then, of course, as was going on today, is a PDR program review. Past that, looking into the new year, and kind of where are we going from here? What are the big ticket items that we want to really nail down? Is we've committed to in the past, and we're going to formalize it, is a review of our grid system. What that's going to look like, I'm not going to commit to and can't right now, but we are very interested in understanding how our grid system applies. Are there gaps in it? Looking at other systems that are out there, for example, BTAC being one of the ones that's very popular. We want to understand it better ourselves and look for those opportunities and how it relates to our current panel repair guidelines. Another one that's underway is an Aztec review. We took our Aztec system and looked at the Mitchell ND 500. And so I know Gavin and his team have done a fantastic job of basically completing some scanning comparisons. We want to collate that information. We want to bring it to the technical committee and the world, the you folks, and discuss next steps and how or should that affect our current policies around pre and post scanning, especially around the use of aftermarket. We're continuing to work through our severity data reconciliation. Back when we were in our rate consultations in March, directly to Tom and his team, we indicated that we want to continue that good work that's being done, and working with Mike as well, if he's willing to continue to work with us, I'm sure he is, so indicated he has. And we've also looking at potentially some of the, helping us to reconcile the differences between estimates in Ontario, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. What are some of the nuances? What are the pressures that are causing some of those changes? And look for an opportunity. Are there gaps? Are we underpaying? Are we overpaying? Are there some opportunity to harmonize there? The other thing that's ongoing right now, we've got our operations team working on is an estimate scrubber and Mitchell Estimate Advisor, and we want to continue that work. I know we've had an opportunity to work directly with Ciaran on this, and we've been in contact with the team from Estimate Scrubber as well. I know we've provided them some information such as our appraisal policy manual, and they're looking for opportunities to integrate that into their product. And is there an opportunity for shops to be able to use that to reduce supplements at image review time? And one of the other things that we want to introduce, we're going to be talking a little bit more about this on the 15th with the technical committee, is talking a little bit about body shop material study. And I come back to the cost of things like structural adhesives. The costs continue to rise in structural adhesives. The other very interesting thing about it is that as we see new complex materials being introduced, now we're starting to see dissimilar metals. We're starting to see folks using a lot of structural adhesives from the OE as another non-welding type of fastener method. So again, we're starting to see it's growing, it's continuing to grow. The usage, that's going to be one of the driving elements behind it. And of course, what's changed a lot is when it was originally conceived, the BSM rate, it really was almost, there's 40 to 50% abrasives. So if you're looking at your materials within your shop, you're using that much sandpaper, 50% of your core sundry costs are associated with sandpaper, or there are other elements that are affecting that. Do we need to flip that ratio and do a little bit of a better job understanding what's going on? Is it adhesives, right? Is it drill bits like Tom brought up, right? What is it? Where are the costs? What are being consumed as part of the repair? Something that we're excited to look into. So now on to industry support initiatives. One of the questions we're asking ourselves, well, Spark's done. Yay. Nope, we're not done. We recognize that a refocus on our partnership. And I think, as Ryan said, Doug, I'm hoping that we're demonstrating our commitment to this. We have teams from our partnership, our claims adjusted team, and new support positions totally directed at helping us manage the partner experience. We concentrate a lot on customer experience. Now it's a refocus on partner experience. What is that going to look like moving forward? A couple of the things just to look at is that there have been, when we continue to provide industry support in certain areas, and one of the things that came up just over the last year, just to keep in mind, April was the last paint material increase. We're looking, again, we target basically an annual increase. I know I've been reached out to by a number of partners and some of the paint suppliers, and understanding a commitment, what's going on that side with respect to any type of mid-year increases as a result of COVID. And it's something we're continuing to work on. And I know, I'm pretty sure I left the ball in Tom's court. I think if I look at my last one, I can find it. But it is something that we're looking at, and certainly the next review is planned. It's an annual review, and we'll continue to do that unless there's a reason, unless there's a compelling reason. It will be an annual increase. Our estimate in May, we started paying for the estimated software subscription and OEM procedures. Two core elements that, because in order to do business with us, we need those communication platforms. The OEM procedure one, that one's close to me. That one is a continuation of our commitment on safe quality of repair. We want you to have at your fingertips access to the procedures. We want you to be able to have access and also potentially to have the choice of the product that works best for you. So we're going to continue to explore. I know their sons came out with a new product as well. It's new, but product as well. Again, as new products come to light, we'll continue to evaluate and look at that. And again, at that point, it's approximately 2.2 million annually. And we understand that the other element to this is that we're hoping that, especially from some of those smaller rural repairs, obviously, that can make a big difference having that covered, especially in their day-to-day operations. So something that we're going to continue to monitor, review. And finally, in August, I think Brian touched on this as well. We finally think, Lyle, have everyone paid for the SCARP subscriptions. So the final tally is about 1.999 million, so about $2 million. And there's potentially a few trickle in. So as I said, it might crack too by the time we're done. But in general, we hope to have that paired. If you haven't got your money yet, please reach out to that gentleman right there, Lyle, and Lyle Juziak. He will ensure that we can get that process for you. But moving forward, kind of what's next? One thing you've noticed is when we talk about the partner experience, we're working with the Sean LeBlanc, Troy Kolish, Jag Singh, and some of our other partners within the partnership team to look at that experience and understand where some of those pain points are. In March, there was a survey that went out, and by the way, please, I encourage you, if you get any surveys from us, answer them, because they're driving our policy. You want to affect policy, you want to affect change, answer the surveys. Because if it comes back and it says, no, they don't care, okay, we're not going to do that. If you care about it, tell us, and that's your voice, that's your opportunity. And when in March 2021, there was 3 key elements that came out of that survey, 3 conclusions: communication, compensation, process and procedure. When we looked at the communication piece, there's been a significant amount of work done with Jess and Jen's areas on the adjusting side, bringing in Ciaran Klein. Also our shop relations team with Tom Campbell in the south and Gerald in the north, and wanting us to, and looking at that, how can we better serve, get into the shops, provide more effective communication, look at pain points with respect to turnaround time on files, not only at the image desk, but also within the adjuster team itself. I'm going to let Jess talk a little bit more about that. The compensation piece is something we're looking at, and I think I can say this. We understand the pressures around OEM research, procedures, understanding DTC codes when you do an in-house scan. Where do you go to find that information? How do I know how to apply to the repair? And then when I go to any kind of structural panel repair, where's the acceptable section locations? What type of welding rod? How many spot welds? Where are they? Where do I make my cut? Whatever it is, we understand that there's some pressure on that. I think it's something that we're going to continue to look at, certainly from now up until our next rate discussion time into March. And then process and procedure. So this for us, really, I look at this as image, audit, total loss processing. Does everyone like how 2 TLs are handled when somebody just do a TL at the shop? If you don't put your head on it, assume you really like it, you should change it. Okay, so we understand that as a pain point. That is something that's basically woven in between the appraisal and the adjuster workflows. How can we improve that and repair it? Even before we have changes in our technology, there are things that we can likely do without IT resources to improve that. The next one that came up, and this was just came up, we just finished it up in August, and I think Troy and his team were working on it. And really, the whole reason behind that survey was to say, and I'll never forget it, it's hard, because what's the juice worth the squeeze? And that's really what we were trying to understand. And what should be the rewards for high performance partner? What are the things that what is indicative? What does high performance partner look like? What are those measurements we should be looking at? And some of the things that we looked at, and this is the one that's we kind of thought based on our discussions with you, here's the key themes, here's a list of things we want you to select from. But there's also at the end of it, a free form field for you folks to be able to tell us what, besides what's on this list, what are other things you want. Troy, I think your team is just collating and going to be putting out more formal report on it. But some of the things that kind of popped up that we found quite interesting is that the number one element that came up was image. And at this point, it was the ability to bypass image review in whatever form that may look like. I think that's one of the key elements that we certainly want to key on moving forward. and looking at and exploring other pieces in there. Like we talked about things like front end audits. So we audit the file on the front end, and then there's no post repair on it. Basically, gets touched in the image and we don't move it. What would that look like? That's certainly a very different resourcing ask of SGI. Looking at the file on the front end with no audit, but is that something that a high preferred partnership, is that something that would make the juice worth the squeeze, as they say, to come into compliance with some of our KPIs? So more to come on that. Again, our HPP program, looking at setting those benchmarks, looking at setting those rewards, something we'll be working on going into 2022 as we try to establish those thresholds, solidify our scorecard. Almost done. And the appraisal process and image. So a couple of things loud and clear, that when we moved to electronic estimating and centralized our image review, it is something that every insurer in the country uses. They use image review. They all use electronic supplementation estimating. It allows us to do more with less, potentially. It provides efficiencies. But one of the things that certainly we need to continue to evolve and grow is, how do we interact with our professionals? Do we have it right? We're using the same equipment, we're using the same programs, we're using the same software, but underlying it are some of the standard operating procedures, so the themes, or when, I'll use an example, how many photos do we need? Just as an example, what is a good auto accept level? How do we handle those auto accept levels when it's done? We need to gain some insights and understanding of how that works. We're also and obviously one of the key elements, the pain points we can't notice, is that our estimating standards are what the image desk is basically applying when they look at a claim. Are there gaps in there? Some higher level gaps that we can look at. So there's two problems we're hoping to look at. We want to understand best practice throughout the Canadian insurers. How are other insurers operating? What are the best practices out there? And also, are there any significant gaps in some of our estimating standards and our SOPs that may help us improve the relationship? And when I say improve relationship, I'm talking about efficiency. How can we make all of us more efficient? The shops that we have, the 204 partners we have, there's some scale there, and there's some real opportunity, I think, at a shop level to really, as we say, if we're gonna be looking for juice worth the squeeze, we get blood out of the stone. We don't want to do that either. What we want to do is we want to ensure that our estimate partners have the tools, either those electronic access to databases, or even potentially out of the shop management system to help make them more efficient. What are the things that we can do to help provide access to that, improve access to those things? And so as part of that independent third-party review, we are right now looking for external consultants to help us with this work. And so it's something we've been working on. We haven't connected briefly with our team with some ideas around potential, what are some of the things we should be looking at? Who are some folks that maybe will help us with this? We'll keep you guys up to date as we move on, but it is something that's hot and heavy. We've got it in our budget. It's going to happen, and we'll continue to work with you folks to make it happen. One of the other pain points has come up, and this is really, we've heard it, and there's various channels we've come through. I know that there would be an opportunity to connect with various representatives within our technical committee, and this is the information that we're getting back, and these are some of the steps that we want to take immediately to basically help resolve some of that. One of the things that we've started actually this month on the audit side, or last month on the audit, but this month on the image, is there was sort of this idea of moving back to a little bit how we did it before. There's a $100 discretionary margin for administrative errors. If you're a body shop, you're busy, and as an example, part price increase got missed, or and there's no invoice support. I'm just using an example, whatever it might be. But it's kind of those one-off admin errors. We don't want to be holding files up for those. We recognize they happen. One of the things we'll be doing, we won't be requesting a supplement. We'll be asking folks, hey, got another supplement, here's the error, throw it back in, and work with us basically on at time of image review. The idea is to not get, it's to basically expedite the review, expedite payment as well if we can. On the audit side, looking at recoveries, we want to ensure that we're fair and open, and we understand that we have some responsibility around ensuring that things are paid for if they're put on a claim. If they're not, we understand mistakes happen. And with that, moving forward, a couple of things that we're looking at is on the image side is that if we can identify that it's an administrative type error, $50, we're not going to go back and recover. We understand that there's a cost to pause your business, go back to those files, which could be 4 to 6 months old, identify where that error is, and cut a check. I think we believe that there's an efficiency in there. So 2 things to keep in mind is that when we look at those discretionary dollars, we're looking between 40 and 50% of the claims volume, especially at the image time. That has a real impact on turnaround time and image if we can work together to make this work. And certainly when we're looking at the audit side, there's a lot of effort put into identifying those under $100 items. Now there's a caveat to this. Administrative error. If there's an error, and we say to the shop, hey guys, you didn't apply the appropriate invoice to this part price increase. Okay, we'll worry about it. And then the next file it's on it, and the next file it's on it. This is an error anymore. This is basically someone decided that their policy procedure, they don't want to amend it so that they can change it or they can capture this error. At that point, we're not going to be applying a $100 increase or the allowance to that shop for those items. This is really about where we to reduce the administrative load and where mistakes happen. We're all human, but if there is a trend or a continuation of it, we'll have to discontinue it and then work with the shop through our normal channels that are in our accreditation area. So again, like I say, we're not coming out of this expecting a $100 increase in severity. It's not the point. And it really isn't. What we want to is create efficiencies. So we're going to continue to develop and report. We really just started. I know that it's Lyle's team and Ryan Kessler both kind of heading this initiative. There might be some growing pains, so be patient with us, but we will continue to develop this and report back to industry on what's happening as we get the data. We literally just started it. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Jeff.
But what I want to talk to you about today is really what is important to us on the claim side of the business. This is the first time we've been invited to come and talk to you. Ryan Smith asked me to come and talk a little bit about kind of what's important to claims. But really today, this whole conference for me has been about learning what's important to you and understanding how on the claim side, we impact your business. And so I want to really first thank you for talking to me and telling me about what is important to your business so I can understand it better and take this information back and make some changes. You had some really dynamic speakers. Actually, I don't know if you had a chance to hear Dave. Your phone's up here, Ciaran, dinging away. Dave Lure spoke, and the one thing he said that really spoke to me was, for a shop, hands-on car is lean, hands-off car is waste. And I thought to myself, that's so powerful. When you're talking about your operations and what makes sense to you, you're trying to get that hand on that car as much as possible, because anytime the hand's off the car, that's waste. And so I thought to myself, Jess, how does SGI impact that? How do we contribute to that? What are we doing that means the hand is not on a car? How are we contributing to that waste? So for me, it's about coming and talking to you guys and learning about where those pain points are. We were all sitting, visiting Thursday night, and I asked Ryan Gessler, I said, okay, you came from a shop. What do these guys want to hear from me? And he made it really simple, which was good because I was about 3/4 of a way into a Chardonnay. He said, Jess, they want to hear that you're going to answer your phone. Those delays cause these guys significant problems. That's handoff car. That's waste. And I've heard that from many of you guys. We've heard it through Ciaran. I would suggest 90% of the problems you're having with claims is because we didn't answer the phone. So I really aim to change that. The quicker we can get information back to you, the better. That means you're working, it means you're making money. We actually do this exceptionally well at SGI with our customers. The entire insurance industry, like yours, is undergoing a tremendous amount of transformation. All businesses, all insurance companies are looking for ways to bring more value to their customers. We're not alone at SGI. All our competitors are doing the same thing. We've been undergoing this journey for several years, and what we say is we are going to stand out as an insurance company based on our customer experience. We're going to do 3 things. Every single time we talk to a customer, we're going to make it easy, we're going to make it effective, and if we really do it well, they're going to enjoy the process. Tough ask of an insurance company, right? And I'll tell you why it's particularly difficult in an insurance company. The average person will file an insurance claim every 17.9 years. We call that an inactive customer. They don't know the process, they don't know what to do, they are inexperienced with filing an insurance claim. Moreover, on an auto claim, we only talk to that customer for an average of 11 minutes. When they call us, we talk to them for 11 minutes, and our employees are expected to make that process easy. It's highly complex. Every claim is different. Every customer is coming to us with a different story. This means I'm a mother that can't get my kids to school. It's a farmer out in a field. It's a dad who just loaded up his camper and can't take his kids on holidays. So we have 11 minutes to explain a complex situation to an inexperienced customer. We want to make that easy. We also want to make it effective, meaning we make sure they get the benefits that they're entitled to. And if we do it really well, we want to make that process enjoyable. We are at SGI, in fact, one of the best in the country at doing this. Survey results show, compared to our competitors across the country, we do this consistently and better than anybody else. So we know how to do this. We know how to make the process easy. We know how to make it effective, and we know how to do it, leaving the person with maybe even a sense of an enjoyment. One of your other speakers, Don Pagoda, I was really moved by his stories as well. And yesterday he talked about how important, really what he was talking about is how important emotion that is to a workplace and to a customer interaction. You can deliver bad news to a customer, but if you do it effectively, they will still rave about your service. You guys know this better than anybody. These people that we're dealing with have suffered a loss. They come to us at a time of need. So it is so important that we're able to deliver really an effective service to them. So what I've learned from you guys here today and talking to you over the last couple of days is we need to take this same framework that we know how to do well in claims for our customers and apply it to you. apply it to our relationships with industry. We know how to make processes effective, easy, and enjoyable. Take those learnings and apply them to the interactions that we have with you guys. Why would we do that? Because while we only have 11 to 14 minutes with those customers, you really are the ones that spend the most time with them. And for many of you, you know these people personally. Maybe you coach hockey, coach their kids in hockey, or you see them at the coffee shop. You know these people. You know what relationship building's about. This is the business you're in. So we need to take the same philosophy and apply it to how we're interacting with you folks in the industry. I'm brand new into claims. Like I said, I've spent 23 years at SGI, but I've only been in claims for about 10 months. And I asked Ryan Smith when he hired me, why me? Why? Why would you want me to come in and look at the claims processes? And it's really about hopefully my ability to take an outsider's view of what we're doing and transform the way we operate in claims to better support, again, the customer, but also partner experience. So I am rattling a few cages, there's no question, because I don't know what I don't know. But what I'm trying to do is look at our processes differently and say, what are all of the points of contact that our customers have? And can we bring effectiveness, ease, and enjoyment to each one of those? Some of the things that we've been up to for the last 6 months is, again, trying to connect with you better. We hired Ciaran Klein, many of you know her. Ciaran is a senior adjuster. She is very skilled at what she does on the claims side. But I said, Ciaran, this is what I want. I want you to come in, be unencumbered by that's just the way we've always done it. I want you to build relationships with the shops. I want you to listen for what they have to say. I want you to understand their business. I want you to go to the shops. Chelsea invited us to come, and we're going to take you up on that offer. Chelsea, thank you so much. We're going to come and we want to watch your workflows and understand how has SGI impacted the handoff car. What are we doing to take your hand off that car? What is that waste that we contribute to? And how can we improve those processes? Ciaran talked about total loss. That makes a tremendous amount of sense to me, that we would be looking at that process and saying, okay, that's a time off, a handoff car moment. How do we contribute to that, and how can we improve that process for you? Why it's better for your business, and 2, it's better for our customer. Some of the other things that I've been working on is, I would suggest, Ciaran's talked to about 200 shops on about 500 different issues over the last 6 months. I would argue almost 100% of those issues would have been resolved had you been able to get a hold of one of my adjusters. Your question was not that unique. You just couldn't get a hold of someone. That's a problem. This customer service model is actually based on what's called the Amazon effect. All of our businesses have been changed because the customer's demand has changed. When they order something from Amazon, they don't get an email back saying, I'm on holidays for the next 2 weeks. I'll fulfill your order when I get back. Customers expect more from us, and rightfully so. So when you've got an issue that's holding up production and you call us and the answer you get is, I can't get back to you, I'm on holidays for 2 weeks, not appropriate. We need to fix that. You need the answers to your questions quickly. One of the quick wins we did is we simply just told our adjusters, if you're away, you need to tell people you're away, and you need to give them an option of who to contact in your absence. Band-aid solution, but it's something. The bigger piece of this puzzle is we're actually looking to operationalize our workplace differently. It was Dave Lure's presentation, and he talked about how the future of the shop is changing and how there's a lot of gain, a lot of value to be brought by specializing your work teams. That if you have a specialized team that's focused on a certain task, that creates efficiencies in your business. It spoke to me because that's exactly what I think we should be doing in claims. We should be specializing our workplaces more effectively to be responsive to customer demand and partners. So one of the things we've been trialing out right here in Saskatoon is taking our army, and we have an army of adjusters, and we've been putting them into teams. So when you have a question about a car that you're working on and you call up Jane the adjuster, you're not going to get a message anymore that says, I'm away from work for 2 weeks. I'll get back to you when I return. You're going to have a team of adjusters that will be able to answer any question you have about an existing claim. Much better response time. If this is approved, I hope to get this more provincially in about 6 to 8 months. In the meantime, anybody who's dealing with a claim that comes out of Saskatoon, you're dealing with this targeted group of adjusters that will be able to answer your question quickly. In the meantime, also, if you can't get a hold of somebody, call Ciaran. Ciaran will find the solution for you. She will do everything she can to expedite that claim as quickly as possible so you get the information and a decision made very quickly so you can get the hands back on the cars. Some of the other things that I've been working on is who we're hiring in claims. We are undergoing a culture shift in our organization. You only do that really about making sure you're hiring the right people for these kinds of jobs. And an adjuster position, in my view, is about being customer centric. It's about having the ability to deliver on these 3 promises. We are looking for people and have changed the way we're recruiting to people who are creative problem solvers, who can think outside the box, who can deliver on this, who can think about your experience, can think about the customer's experience and make good decisions that make the most sense, opposed to being too prescriptive about things. So we're changing the way we're hiring. We've hired more adjusters in the last 8 months to the point where we have the highest number of adjusters on record at SGI. That is a direct response to your concerns that you can't get through to us. So there are some really important things I think we're doing, but we have to acknowledge that there's more that can be done. And really, Ciaran is your go-to for that. If you have a pain point in your shop that's causing problems, please reach out to her. I asked her, I said, you need to be the voice of the shop. We haven't done that well in claims. We might have a process that makes complete sense to us, but it doesn't work for you guys. Ciaran is the voice of the shop, and then we invite her to the table. So when we are talking policy changes, when we're talking structure changes, we make sure that your views are effectively represented and they influence our decision-making. Really, this is inspired by Ciaran and his team saying, we need to do better. We need to do better for these shops. You are critical in this customer journey. And if we're really committed to this, you guys have as much influence over our customers' experience as we do. In fact, probably more. So we need to be able to take this framework and apply it to the work we do with you. I guess I would just say in conclusion, thank you again for having me. This is my first time here. And it's been a fantastic event. I really learned so much from you. I hope you'll remember who I am and you will feel free to call me We really are trying to improve things, and I can't do that without understanding how this impacts your business. So please, again, reach out to me, Ciaran, give a wave, reach out to Ciaran, and we certainly will be looking to move this relationship forward in the future. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Jess. So Ryan and I are getting our resumes polished up. That's going to be one of our new leaders, as she is today. If you ever need your car warmed up or anything, you just let me know. I can pop out and make sure. Just a couple more slides, and then we'll open up to some questions. Very quickly, I'm sure it's top of everyone's mind. COVID, what's going on? Well, lots is going on. Apparently, we're not out of it yet. But a couple of things I just want to know. We did introduce the $50 sanitizing allowance. We've actually paid out over $2.4 million in that allowance since it came into effect in March last year. The provincial state of emergency actually ended on July 11th. And we'd indicated, we'd sort of revisit it every couple of weeks to see what's going on. There's no intent right now for us to remove the allowance at this time. We're going to continue, obviously, to monitor situation and basically comply with public health guidelines. So just put that to the back of your mind. You're not going to lose it right away. I think we're still obviously in the grasps of the pandemic, and we certainly want to ensure that you're keeping our customers and your employees safe. Another question that comes up related to COVID is, what's going on with our claims volumes? How are things going? Well, the two arrows, basically it's a 12-month period. You can see what happened in April. It was quite a significant drop in the number of claims that we took in. But one of the things we haven't quite recovered yet. And we're still, even today, just looking at April 2021, we're maintaining that gap. Couple of things, what's affecting it? Well, there's still ongoing reticence in the customer community. There's still not as much driving. There's still some restrictions around going to visit folks. People are coming back to work at their workplaces. We're hoping, not hoping, but we will certainly see an increase in the number of highway incidents and on-road incidents associated with that. But the other question then, of course, is, and I think everyone's asking this, what's post-pandemic collision industry look like? Are people's perceptions and ways that they're utilizing their vehicles going to change? What are we going to see? So again, best thing we can do is just continue to partner up with you folks. Let's keep talking. Let's keep understanding what we're seeing out there from the customer perspective, and we will amend our methodology and policies as necessary. Just quickly, first of all, thank you everybody for all of your work. Bam, we had COVID, and then we had SCORP, and then we had Mitchell Cloud estimating. What are we going to do to you next, right? So we're hoping that we can reduce the change fatigue over the next little while. But we have shops. We basically broke out the shops into two phases. The second phase was fully implemented on August 10th. So we essentially every shop now should be on and have access to MCE. Our staff pilot, we've started, obviously we need to do you folks first, because we couldn't turn our staff on and then send you a MC estimate while you're still on Ultramate. You couldn't process it. So we had to do shops first. Now we're doing the staff next. We were hoping to roll everyone out on the 15th. We're slated to the 20th because we have unprecedented claim volumes with respect to hail. And it was just one of those, would be another thing right now. We didn't want to slow up our process by introducing something new. But we will be looking for opportunity to sort of increase the number of MCE files processes, decrease the Ultramate. And at some point, we want to basically stop writing in Ultramate. So we need to know, and we'll be working with our contacts in industry, is when is that a good time? When can we start doing that? Because obviously we need to transition over. So something to keep in mind, we don't have a set date for that, but once this is done, the next step is when do we shut off Ultramate for the shops? Basically, everything is done now in the new world. We have some time, but what is that right time? And hopefully it's sometime within 2021 or sorry, early 2022 at the latest. So very quickly, the other thing we heard, especially from the rural folks, they just don't get the same amount of love because they live outside of town. So what do we got to do? We got to get out there and we need to connect with them. And we've heard this since our last set of town halls. They were well received. I really do feel that we got to understand and know and put a face to the names. We are intending to do another round of these town halls. These are tentative dates. It's just something to get in people's calendars so they've got an idea of our plans. We looked at this as sort of the inaugural one today, just to practice on you all. And so appreciate that. But the next piece, any feedback, some themes that maybe we should be concentrating on as we go out into industry, other things you want to hear about, maybe we could amend our approach. But in general, we're looking at one in each corner of the province. So Tisdale, Estevan, or Balfour, Swift Current, those central areas, trying to do it at the beginning of the month. It's not to impact month-end activities. And so we will be continuing to work on that and providing more information. And with that, the most important part of any town hall is it's a conversation, right? An opportunity to ask questions. So we're going to practice again with the team. And so we'd open up the floor to any questions at this time.
I've got a microphone here, so if you're going to ask a question, let me get you on the microphone. Harvey wants to ask a question. Is that a surprise to you guys?
Harv was my horse, actually. He now owes me $5.
Okay, so you got $5, I get it. So I'm in a small rural area, and my crash severity is, well, deer hits, and like they show $4,600. Mine's like, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000. So that means that probably at least 75% of my claims go through the image desk. And I have to say that it's very painful. You have to attach pictures for every little thing when you can see it that it's gone. So anyways, we've solved that problem after my long post-audit repair, whatever thing I did. So here's a question for you guys. If we're having these big claims go through the image desk and then they're getting audit down the road, and we know we're eating for the adhesive that we spent and the sealant that we spent like $700 on a $35,000 claim, couple of frame rails. We're eating that. And then down the road, we're going to get that file audited when it's been to an image desk and it's spent quality time and escalate image. And then it goes back to get audited. Why is that? You guys already beat us up on it. What's left? Can you guys, like, we're your high performance partnership? I'm not sure if I'm really interested in that, because you're going to let us do claims by ourselves and then come back and audit them when we've already been through this issue. And I'm not really that excited. I'm not excited about it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, because it's going to come back and bite pretty much every shop. I talked to a couple of other guys and they're like, I'm not sure whether I want to be that guy to have it come back, and that is there going to be a benefit to us? And you keep on saying that's a carrot, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to not really good for us. But if you can at least make that part of it, if they go through the escalated review, that they're not coming back, they look at that guy's notes, and then we're not getting beat up again on that same file, because it takes hours of my time. Just saying.
Yeah, thanks, Herb. So you've covered, I think, several different elements there. You've talked about BSM and adhesives. You've talked about image process, and you've talked about the carrot, the reward of the high performance partner program. Well done. Fair enough. It's become really clear to us, and even more so with the surveys that Troy and Sean have been doing on partnerships, that there is not one voice of industry. There are many voices and different challenges. And even in, well, first of all, the adhesives, we're meeting on August 13th, and we want to move that forward. On the image process, we've talked about how we're engaging a third party. And first and foremost, we want to learn, are we aligned with industry? Are we doing, it's been suggested that what we're doing is truly unique. We don't believe that to be the case. but we are invested in finding out. So we are very invested in this third party coming in and telling us, first of all, are we aligned with industry? Are we doing things that are truly unique, that are taking hands off cars? Okay, that's the first part. The second part is, are there opportunities? On the third piece about the image review and then a subsequent audit, the preliminary results that we got from that survey, to Ciaran's point about the importance of everyone responding, the preliminary response says the carrot that most people still want isn't the ability not to have audits, it's to skip image on the front end, which is contrary to what you're suggesting, although I absolutely see merit in what you're suggesting. And so those are the pieces when we've got all these voices that we need to sort through. And we've absolutely considered, and a lot of it comes from your points. I mean, that you haunt us with that juice squeeze comment. Is there a way, and is that the right reward to just do complete reviews on the front end? One of the sensitivities for us with that is we've worked hard over the last years to reduce our reliance on technicians, so we aren't taking technicians from industry. That was a big part of us creating the image review, which was a cursory administrative review. It mitigated the need for us to have technicians at that desk. We know that's important to you all. We know the challenges, especially in the rural areas with technicians. So it's this balance. But Troy has the results. We've just, like I said, literally on the drive out, Ciaran was reading them to me. We're going through the process of analyzing them. I wonder if we have to go back and get a bit more clarity on that. If when some of the folks said they wanted to bypass image, they assumed there would be no audit. So we need to dig deeper into that, Harv. I understand your points. They're valid, and that's the kind of stuff we need to sort through.
Joe?
Sorry, can I need to finish just one quick comment there. File goes through escalated, it shouldn't be audited after. So I just wanted to, that is, there is an auditor at that desk. So if there are specific files, that an escalated review is, generally, they're not audited. So I would like to understand those files, and I'd like you to reach out to both myself and Lyle, and let's dig into those. Because again, image, it's a cursory review done by generally a non-technician. Yes, really, that we're looking for very black and white, easy to administer pieces. When it escalates, in general, there shouldn't be a follow-up audit on it. There may be situations and where it escalated, looked at one specific piece of the claim, but in general, it shouldn't be. So I will follow up with our group. Please give me those claim numbers and we'll dig into it.
We've had those two, Ciaran, a couple in the last couple of weeks as well. But my question to you is, when we're communicating, Ryan, we're using a lot of photos. So, that really tells the story of what we're doing so that you understand what we're doing. And at the end of the day, what's happening is that, is there a way that we can take those photos, even after they've been locked in Connect, keeping them in Connect, but having the ability to take new photos, because we get requests sometimes because we don't understand the story, so we need more photos, to take those photos and be able to put them in a sequential form so that there's better understanding. So like, let's just say it, some damage on a fender. So we go through, take all the pictures, everything that you require, and then you say, well, we need a couple more pictures. So if you get a large claim and you're getting into 100 photos, then we're getting down to the fenders at the beginning, and then we have the fender in the middle maybe, or the fender at the end. And even for us in our own facilities to be able to audit our own files, the ability to go through in a sequential manner, because our estimates go from top to bottom, we'd have a better opportunity first to audit our own files. And then also the image desk would have a better opportunity to read our files. And I don't know if that's a possibility with Mitchell, and if that's simple or not simple, but I think it would provide some stability with being able to give you this story.
Yeah, no, good question. And that's exactly what assisted review is in Mitchell. What it does is it uses AI to associate the photos with the claim line. That is the future. It's exactly where we want to get to. The other element that we ask to help with that is to basically ID your photo, right? Left front, left right, and give us an opportunity to, at least then we know what part it is, right? That we're looking at. What do you want us to look at in that photo? Right in the description. And that will expedite the image side and reduce our reliance on additional photos. But you're absolutely right. That is one of the things. The other thing you can do if you want, and I'm not suggesting it, but you certainly could. You could take a Word document, throw a couple photos in it, write a little story, and then stick it and then upload it as an artifact. You can go look here, here, and here. We can take lots. We can't take video yet, but we can certainly take any other type of, many other kinds of documentation to help tell the story. But right now, I do understand, and that's a great point, and I think people have identified that as an efficiency. And I do know that the estimatics companies are looking at ways to extend that. And one of the ones that's coming up is the assisted review. And we are going to, we're pushing for access to that. And one of the things though I can't say, and this is a very good question, I don't know what it looks like from the shop side, right, in Connect. So that'll be another question I think we need to ask. That's great, we can see it in image, but to your point, what about helping the shops basically scrub their estimate before they submit it? So I don't think there's anyone from Mitchell here, but that's a great point, thanks.
So timing wise.
I can't comment on time right now. We have to all get on to Connect first. And then once everyone, or not on Connect, but on to MCE, once everyone's on MCE, that's that next step that we can start to look at. And I think, I know it's here, I know it's available. And so again, comes down to when do we shut Ultimate off? When are we making those kind of, that next leap? So I'm hoping next year at some point that that was something we could move towards.
Hey, Ciaran, Josh here. In regards to the ADAS calibrations you were talking about there and looking at having them done in-house more often, would you guys be looking at a remuneration or, you know, some kind of compensation for the labor rates? Because the training, the equipment necessary to do that, just coupled with the liability of the shops taking that commitment, that has to be passed on to the repair centers. And that's really hoping, like I've talked about this in the past and haven't heard anything about it. And there are some body shops that are starting to take on that commitment to keeping it in-house. And simply hearing from SGI standpoint that, oh, you're saving yourself time and you're reducing your KPI for touch time is your remuneration. We can understand that, but there's got to be some form of a better compensation if it's not going to be a totality in the accreditation. Like if you're not asking for it, you're saying you could sub that out still. But for the body shops that are doing it, I really think that's something we should look at. You had it on there, but what are you looking at doing?
So it's on the tech committee work plan. And I think I have a new volunteer who's going to come and help with some of the work on that. Josh, thanks. Well, you're welcome to the team. And what is the plan? The plan is is exactly what you're saying. We need to look at a rate, and the rate needs to compensate the shop effectively with some profit for the operation. Again, our mantra is we don't want to spend more than retail. You know, if the customer can go get it done themselves for two, at what point is that reasonable and something we need to talk about? But you know, when you're talking on liability, and I just need to say that, and I think as SGI, I think we're cognizant of that. When I look at SCORP and the liability taken on by the shops, when you guys take on a structural repair, that's big time, right? People are relying on that vehicle to keep their families safe. And I look at ADAS the same way. It's that same traffic safety component contributing to not only the crash worthiness as with the SCORP, but also the collision avoidance in the first place with ADAS. So yes, we want to have a remunerate at a rate that is giving the shops the same access to compensation and profitability as it would with a sublet provider. What's it going to take to get it done in the shops? That's my question. What's it going to take? And we're going to have to understand that together. And I think I said this to somebody else. How's someone building a business plan if they don't understand what that compensation strategy looks like? You're not going to make the investment in $30,000 piece of equipment. You don't understand the market. You don't understand. So that's what we have to do. We have to start with what's the market? Where are these types of vehicles? How long is it taking? Is it dynamic? Is it static? Where do we go from here? Those are the questions we're going to answer as part of that working group. And you've got to bring the donuts for the first meeting.
We're pretty much out of time unless there's one more question. Is there one? Okay, you got 1 minute.
Charlie, also known as horse number 2.
Hello. Regarding, I guess, acknowledging that the annotations are kind of part of our KPIs. So when we get an annotation that I believe is unnecessary, and it's kind of proven that, you know, the dollar's at risk are not something that we were being judged on, and that the annotation we're getting from the reviewer, we can prove that the annotation wasn't required. Is that annotation scrubbed after?
So right now, with respect to the dollars, we can back them out, no problem. So they don't touch it.
Okay.
With respect to the actual measure, I mean, right now, no, they can't. What is important, that means it's incumbent upon us to only annotate when it's specifically necessary.
Well,
I think part of that comes down to when we look at, and I'm gonna give you an example, $100 margin, right? Do we need to be annotating for all of those elements? Is there something we can do to, and for example, we'll be using journal notes to communicate that instead of an annotation within the body of the estimate. So we've got, good point. It's more important, that puts the pressure on us to make sure that we're annotating at the appropriate times where we know that there's an issue, okay? And now if something's missing and we ask for a photo and it's just not documented, it's not supported, it's not that we don't think you did the work, we just need the documentation. You're going to get an annotation for that, right? Because we got to ask.
I understand that. The annotations I really have a problem is when they quote the appraisal manual and they're wrong.
That would be an issue for sure. Yeah.
And it happens regularly.
So that's one of those pieces where it comes down to, again, our team who's working on the quality control on that. So again, coming back to Lyle, coming back to Ryan, making sure that that's part of our QA/QC where we identify those problems. Now, there are regular reviews of our image review team's work. So we're continuously to look at those. And we've asked this before, if there are specific instances and claim numbers where you identify an issue, please share them with us. Every one of them's looked up. We look up every time you reach out to us. We look into it.
It takes time to complain about an annotation like that though, right? I mean, is there a way on your end to measure that where we don't have to like send in a complaint and have you guys look at an unnecessary annotation?
Right now, the best, if we don't know about it, we can't fix it, right? That's our challenge right now. So we will rely on the partner to help us understand. Hey, I've been told this, we have no problem telling you guys when something's wrong. Please provide us the same. If there's something wrong, I got an example from just last week. A shop came up to us with an issue. Without you folks reaching out to us, it could have become much bigger than it was.
Sure. Can we like put something in on the new estimating system where we can annotate you guys at the flip of a switch?
Jessica, what do you think?
It's a coaching opportunity, right? Is what you're saying, Ciaran. If you don't know about it, you can't. So just let's let them know. That's great. Charlie's always good for a couple zingers, isn't he? One last question, Bob, thank you very much for giving us a few minutes of your time. Bill?
Harv brought up the audit situation, and I understand you guys have to audit claims. That's fine. But when I get a call about an audit and it's a year ago or 14 months ago, I don't remember even the guy's name, what color the car was. If we can audit a car like 3 months later, that would be a lot simpler. But one thing on recovery letters, and I send a check in, why doesn't SGI cash the checks? Because I'll take it back.
That's a great question. Those are great points. And so quickly, if you're getting an audit a year later, we're going to not do it anyway. We'll pull it. That's not going to happen. We've got it. That's way out there. We are in general within that 3 to 4 month period. Usually, and if it doesn't happen, we'll have to deal with that as well. But one of the issues is in the event that there's an audit completed and you should be getting a phone call directly from the auditor to discuss it with you long before you get a letter. This should be within 6 to 8 weeks kind of thing of the claim being paid. If that's not happening, that's something. Now, understanding typically that is the timeline. There may be some that fall out of it, but that is generally our target. If you're saying 12 to 14 months, we'll have to just pull the audit because we're not going to do it. Now, with respect to the payments, yes, pain point. We have, I don't know if it's, we basically working to secure some administrative help to get through those quicker. We will, when it comes, and I'm just going to be completely transparent. It's audit recoveries, it's the letters, it's the SCORT payments, it's updating the, our vendor profile or vendor management, the shop profiles in our system. We're behind in it. So we are taking steps right now to get the resources in place to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. And that's like literally last week, we were doing that to address your problem directly. So good question. Excellent. And you're absolutely right.